Imagine a cozy little house, filled with the smell of freshly baked cookies and the sound of laughter. This is where George, a kind old man with twinkling eyes and a warm smile, lived with his granddaughter, Lily. George wasn't just any old man, he was a veteran, a hero who had served his country with bravery. Now, his biggest mission was taking care of Lily, the light of his life. Lily was a bright and cheerful girl, with pigtails that bounced when she ran and a heart full of love for her grandpa. Her parents had passed away a few years ago, and George had stepped in to be her guardian, her friend, her everything. They were the best of friends, doing everything together. They tended their small garden, filled with colorful flowers and juicy tomatoes. They baked cookies, making silly faces as they sprinkled the dough with colorful sprinkles. And every night, George would read Lily bedtime stories, his voice soft and soothing as she drifted off to sleep. Their bond was unbreakable, a testament to the power of love and family. Lily especially loved helping George in the garden. He would show her how to plant the tiny seeds, carefully covering them with soil and watering them gently. She'd giggle as she got dirt on her nose, and George would chuckle, wiping it off with his handkerchief. They'd watch with anticipation as the first sprouts emerged, cheering them on as they grew taller and stronger. Baking was another favorite. Lily would stand on a stool next to George, carefully measuring out flour and sugar. Sometimes, a little flour would end up on the floor, or a bit of sugar would mysteriously disappear into Lily's mouth, but George never minded. He loved seeing her happy, her eyes sparkling with delight as she decorated the cookies with colorful frosting and sprinkles. These weren't just cookies, they were edible masterpieces created with love. And those bedtime stories? They were magical adventures, filled with brave knights, talking animals, and faraway lands. George brought each story to life, using different voices and funny sound effects, making Lily laugh until her tummy hurt. Now, let's meet Officer Johnson and Officer Rodriguez. Officer Johnson was tall and serious, with a neatly trimmed mustache and a crisp uniform. He always followed the rules, believing that was the best way to keep everyone safe. Officer Rodriguez was a bit younger, with a friendly smile and a kind heart. He also believed in following the rules, but he also understood that sometimes, things weren't always black and white. They were both dedicated to their jobs, wanting to make their town a better place. They patrolled the streets, helped people in need, and always tried to do what was right. Sometimes, that meant making tough decisions that weighed heavily on their hearts. They worked well together, balancing each other's strengths and weaknesses. Officer Johnson provided the structure and discipline, while Officer Rodriguez offered compassion and understanding. They were a team, ready to face whatever challenges came their way. One sunny afternoon, Mrs. Gable, a well-meaning but slightly nosy neighbor, noticed George struggling to carry a heavy bag of groceries into the house. She'd also seen Lily playing outside alone sometimes, while George was inside resting. Now, Mrs. Gable wasn't a bad person, she cared about her community and wanted to make sure everyone was safe. But she was also a worrier, and her mind tended to jump to conclusions. She thought to herself, George is getting older. Is he really able to take care of Lily all by himself? Driven by concern, she made a call to the authorities, reporting a potential case of neglect. She emphasized George's age and her worries about Lily's well-being. She truly believed she was doing the right thing, protecting a child in need. Little did she know, her well-intentioned phone call would set off a chain of events that would turn everyone's world upside down. She had no idea the loving and supportive home George provided for Lily. The next morning, Officer Johnson and Officer Rodriguez received the report from Mrs. Gable. They reviewed the information, noting George's age and the concerns about Lily's care. They knew they had to investigate, even though something about the report felt off. They drove to George's house, the patrol car silent except for the hum of the engine. As they approached, they saw George and Lily in the garden, tending to their tomato plants. Lily was giggling as she chased a butterfly, and George was smiling, watching her with pride. The scene was peaceful and heartwarming, a far cry from the neglect they had been led to expect. Still, they had a duty to perform. They parked the car and walked towards the house, their faces serious but their hearts hoping that everything was all right. They approached George, ready to explain why they were there. "Good morning, sir," Officer Johnson said, his voice polite but firm. "We're here to ask you a few questions." George looked at them, a puzzled expression on his face. "Questions? About what?" Officer Rodriguez stepped forward, offering a gentle smile. "We received a report about Lily's well-being." "Just routine, sir. We need to make sure everything is okay." Lily, who had been happily chasing butterflies just moments before, now hid behind George's legs, peeking out with wide, frightened eyes. She clutched his hand tightly. George knelt down, reassuring her. "It's all right, Lilybug. These nice officers just want to talk." He looked back at the officers, his expression calm but concerned. "Of course, officers. I'm happy to answer any questions you have." He gestured towards the porch. "Please, come sit down." He wanted to appear cooperative, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He held Lily close, trying to shield her from whatever was about to happen. After a series of questions and a quick look around the house, Officer Johnson and Officer Rodriguez stepped aside to confer. Officer Johnson, ever mindful of procedure, pointed out that the report had to be taken seriously. "We have no choice," he said, his voice low. "Until we can fully investigate, we need to ensure Lily's safety." Officer Rodriguez hesitated. He looked back at George and Lily, seeing the fear in Lily's eyes and the worry etched on George's face. "But Officer Johnson, look at them. They're clearly happy and healthy. Is this really necessary?" Officer Johnson sighed. "I know it's difficult, Rodriguez, but we have to follow protocol. It's for Lily's own good. We'll get this sorted out quickly, and she'll be back home before you know it." Reluctantly, Officer Rodriguez nodded in agreement. They turned back to George, their faces grim. "Sir," Officer Johnson said, his voice heavy with regret, "we're going to have to take Lily into protective custody temporarily, while we investigate further." George's face crumpled. "No, please," he begged, his voice cracking with emotion. "You can't take her. I'm her family. I take good care of her. Just give me a chance to prove it." Lily, sensing the gravity of the situation, began to cry. Big tears streamed down her face as she wrapped her arms around George's neck, clinging to him with all her might. "Grandpa, don't let them take me. I want to stay with you." Officer Rodriguez knelt down, trying to soothe her. "Lily, honey, it's going to be okay. We just need to ask you a few questions, and then you can come right back home." But Lily wouldn't let go of George. "No. I don't want to go anywhere without Grandpa." Officer Johnson gently but firmly took Lily's hand. "Sir, I understand this is difficult, but we have to do what's right. It's just for a little while." He looked at Lily, his eyes filled with sympathy. "We promise we'll take good care of you, Lily." As they led Lily towards the patrol car, she screamed, "Grandpa! Grandpa!" George reached out, his heart breaking as he watched her being taken away. He felt helpless, his world crumbling around him. He knew he had to get her back. The patrol car pulled away from George's house, leaving him standing alone on the porch, a picture of despair. Inside the car, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Lily sat quietly in the back seat, her small body shaking with silent sobs. Officer Johnson drove, his jaw tight, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. He was trying to convince himself that they had done the right thing. Officer Rodriguez glanced back at Lily, his heart aching for her. He cleared his throat. "Officer Johnson," he said hesitantly, "are you sure about this? I mean, did you see the way they looked at each other? That was real love." Officer Johnson sighed. "I know, Rodriguez, I know. But we had a report, and we have to investigate. It's our job to protect children. But what if we're making a mistake?" Officer Rodriguez persisted. "What if we're tearing apart a loving family for no reason?" The silence that followed was heavy and filled with doubt. Lily's quiet weeping was the only sound. 7 minutes into the drive, Officer Johnson's phone rang, breaking the heavy silence. It was Officer Miller from the station. "Johnson, I just ran a quick background check on that George fella," Officer Miller said, his voice urgent. "You need to hear this." Officer Johnson frowned. "What is it, Miller?" "We're kind of in the middle of something here. This guy is a war hero, Johnson. Decorated veteran, spotless record. And get this, I spoke to a few neighbors. They all rave about how wonderful he is with Lily. Say he's the most loving and dedicated grandpa anyone could ask for." Officer Johnson's grip tightened on the steering wheel. He glanced at Officer Rodriguez, his face pale. "Are you sure about this, Miller?" "Positive, Johnson. Everyone says he's a saint." This Mrs. Gable must have jumped to conclusions. "You need to turn around. Now." The call ended abruptly, leaving Officer Johnson in stunned silence. He looked at Officer Rodriguez, his eyes wide with disbelief and dawning horror. The details of George's life flooded their minds. He wasn't just an elderly man, he was a hero. His distinguished military service, marked by bravery and sacrifice, had earned him numerous awards. His record was spotless, a testament to his integrity and commitment to doing what was right. And the neighbors' words echoed in their ears, "He's the best grandpa anyone could ask for. He's so patient and loving with Lily. They're inseparable." The officers now understood the depth of their error. They had acted hastily, relying on incomplete information and failing to see the truth that was right in front of them. George was providing Lily with a safe, nurturing, and loving home. They had almost destroyed something beautiful, something precious. The weight of their mistake settled heavily on their shoulders. They had to fix this, and they had to fix it now. The urgency of the situation was overwhelming. The realization hit them hard, like a punch to the gut. Officer Johnson felt a wave of shame wash over him. He had been so focused on following procedure that he had forgotten to use his common sense, his heart. He had allowed himself to be blinded by a single, possibly misguided report, ignoring the obvious love and care that radiated from George and Lily. Officer Rodriguez felt a similar sense of guilt. His initial unease had been right all along. He should have trusted his instincts, spoken up more forcefully. He should have done more to prevent this terrible mistake. Their regret was profound, a heavy burden that weighed them down. They knew they had to act quickly to undo the damage they had caused. Every second that Lily was separated from George was a second too long. They were determined to make things right, to restore the bond they had so carelessly broken. The well-being of Lily was the most important thing. Without a word, Officer Johnson slammed on the brakes, the patrol car screeching as it made a hasty U-turn. He pressed down on the accelerator, the car speeding back towards George's house. Every second felt like an eternity. Lily, startled by the sudden turn, looked up, her eyes red and swollen. Officer Rodriguez turned to her, offering a reassuring smile. "We're going back, Lily," he said softly. "We're taking you back to your grandpa." Lily's eyes widened with hope, but she remained cautious. "Really?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, really," Officer Rodriguez confirmed. "We made a mistake, and we're going to fix it." Officer Johnson drove in silence, his mind racing. He couldn't imagine the pain and confusion George must be feeling. He just hoped they weren't too late, that they could still make things right. The image of George's heartbroken face haunted him. He knew he had to apologize, not just for himself, but for the entire system that had failed them. They raced against time, praying they could undo the damage they'd done. Back at George's house, time seemed to stand still. He sat slumped on the porch swing, his head in his hands, his heart aching with a pain he hadn't felt since losing Lily's parents. The garden, usually a source of joy, now seemed bleak and empty. He felt utterly alone. Suddenly, he heard footsteps approaching. He looked up to see Mrs. Gable walking towards him, her face etched with remorse. "George," she said, her voice trembling, "I am so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I was worried. I didn't know." Tears streamed down her face as she confessed her misguided actions. George looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and understanding. He knew Mrs. Gable hadn't meant any harm. She had simply acted out of concern, however misplaced it may have been. He couldn't bring himself to be angry with her. He was just too heartbroken, too consumed by the absence of Lily. He just wanted his Lily back. Suddenly, the patrol car pulled up to the curb. Officer Johnson and Officer Rodriguez stepped out, their faces filled with genuine remorse. Lily, her eyes still red from crying, peeked out from behind Officer Rodriguez's legs. Officer Johnson approached George, his voice filled with sincerity. "Mr. George, sir, we are so incredibly sorry. We made a terrible mistake. We acted too quickly, based on incomplete information. There's no excuse for what we did." He paused, taking a deep breath. "We brought Lily back. We hope you can forgive us." Officer Rodriguez gently pushed Lily forward. "Go on, honey," he said softly. Lily hesitated for a moment, then ran towards George, her arms outstretched. George rose from the swing and caught her in a tight embrace, burying his face in her hair. "Lilybug! My Lilybug," he cried, his voice choked with emotion. He held her so tightly, as if he would never let her go again. The reunion was a powerful, emotional moment. Tears streamed down both George's and Lily's faces, tears of relief, joy, and overwhelming love. They clung to each other, their bond stronger than ever. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated happiness. Seeing them reunited, Mrs. Gable stepped forward, her voice choked with emotion. "George, Lily," she said, "I am so deeply sorry for all the trouble I caused. I acted rashly, and I didn't think things through. I hope you can find it in your hearts to forgive me." George looked at Mrs. Gable, his expression softening. "Mrs. Gable," he said kindly, "I know you meant well. We all make mistakes. The important thing is that we learn from them." He offered her a gentle smile. "Lily and I forgive you." Lily nodded in agreement, wiping away her tears and offering Mrs. Gable a small, sweet smile. The air was filled with forgiveness and understanding. It was a moment of healing for everyone involved. As Officer Johnson and Officer Rodriguez watched George and Lily embrace, a profound sense of humility washed over them. They had come face to face with the real-world consequences of their actions, the human cost of blindly following protocol. They knew they would never forget this day. Officer Johnson realized that being a good officer wasn't just about following rules, it was about using good judgment, listening to your heart, and considering the impact of your decisions on the lives of others. He vowed to always prioritize thorough investigation and empathy in his work. Officer Rodriguez, already inclined towards compassion, understood the importance of trusting his instincts and speaking up when something didn't feel right. He knew that sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is question authority, even your own. They both learned a valuable lesson that day, that every case is unique, and that every person deserves to be treated with respect and understanding. They committed to learning from this experience and becoming better officers, and better people, as a result. In the days that followed, life slowly returned to normal for George and Lily. The garden bloomed brighter than ever, the cookies tasted even sweeter, and the bedtime stories were filled with even more laughter and love. Their bond, tested by a brief but painful separation, was now unbreakable. George, Lily, and Mrs. Gable all forgave Officer Johnson and Officer Rodriguez, understanding that everyone makes mistakes. They all learned a valuable lesson about the importance of communication, of not jumping to conclusions, and of trusting in the goodness of people. Officer Johnson and Officer Rodriguez continued to serve their community, but they did so with a newfound sense of empathy and understanding. They remembered George and Lily's story every time they faced a difficult decision, reminding themselves to always consider the human impact of their actions. And so, the story of the elderly vet, his loving granddaughter, and the officers who learned a valuable lesson came to a peaceful and heartwarming end. George and Lily continued their loving life together, stronger than before, their home filled with laughter, love, and the sweet smell of cookies.